as we all experiencing different culture, different behavior, different work style and everything, it's really time for transformation. So good evening everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today's session. Due to some unavoidable reason not join us, but the session will gonna continue. So on his behalf, I would like to thank each one of you for joining the session today and being part of this a very inspirational talk, which says about transforming yourself, transforming your own limits by converting your adversities to you know and since the time is now, which is very very relevant for all of us to understand what our limitations are there, what all the opportunities, because whenever the difficult time comes up, it brings a lot of opportunities for a lot of people. So we really need to understand what those opportunities lies ahead of us, to stay positive, work towards it, and come out of the entire situation. Many people ask me. I mean, we had a discussion yesterday with one of my neighbor, and who's working with federal government. So his question was like, "What are you doing at this point in time, and how you sustaining your business?" My simple question is that my simple answer to his question was, "I'm working on something which is for the future. I'm working for the future. I'm taking this particular time to work on something which I could not do before." Right? So it's all about each of us can really look into the difficulties and trying to come out with the solution. So I would like to welcome our speakers today, who are going to who are going to talk about the entire thing, and who are going to take us together on a new journey. How can we really convert our adversities into opportunities? So thank you very much, Mr. Doug Dane, the International Sales Director for Procter and Gallagher Institute, and Mr. Deepak Vadra, certified consultant, uh, to to join us today and agree to our request to address all our members. So thank you very much for joining today. We would like to hear from you more. Over to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Anurag. And without taking now much time, I would welcome and thank Mr. Doug Dane and Mr. Deepak Badra to accept our invitation to grace us here on the online event, which is a normal phenomena for now since 13th of March. Since the time we cannot do physical events, we are doing shorter versions of the online event, and which has seen good success. So I think this is the first example where we have converted this into opportunity to make the learning sessions short and sweet so that people can enjoy these sessions. So thank you once again, and thank you, Hari, to organize this and coordinate with the speakers and the EXCOM to take this forward. Thank you all the managing committee to always support in all our initiatives. And I would like to thank all the members also who has wholeheartedly pledged their interest to support for the cause, to the help to the needy people. We have received almost 100 pledges from the people contributing either in cash or in kind, in the food kits or the commodities. So thank you very much. Really appreciate your efforts. Talking about this event, again, as Anurag said, that he's using this time to look forward for the future. So I also firmly believe that one certainty in life is that future holds unpredictable changes. So we start every day not knowing exactly what we can expect, but life brings lessons and opportunities we don't always welcome, but it forces us to take risk, become vulnerable, and open ourselves to the unknown. Like just a few simple examples. We never had that much of family time earlier, now which we are having it. I don't know when I last played Ludo, but I had played Ludo with my kids now every day from last 15 days. We also are sharpening our skills of cooking. So in case if wife is not around, we can also cook on our own rather than depending on the restaurant. So these are small things where we can convert, transform the adversity situation into the opportunities. And I'm sure in all your career, all your work life also, many will will have the opportunity to read where they want to go in the future and decide on their action plan. I'm sure a lot of our members are getting some trainings which they were not earlier were able to get. So with this, I will once again thank all the members, participants to join us, all the speakers to grace the occasion. Thank you very much. And just a few words of wisdom from Vice Chairman, and then we'll go for the introduction.
Yeah, good evening to all. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good evening to all. Thank the speakers for accepting to share their insight with the members. This is a very big initiative taken by the chapter, converting the opportunity, whatever difficulties we have, we are converting into opportunities. A very good initiative, and thanks to all the members who have already pledged their support to support the community. Again, Ramadan Kareem. Over to you, Chairman, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Hari, if you can do, please, introduction.
Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have two speakers in the panel. First, I will introduce our speaker, Doug Dane. Doug Dane is International Sales Director and Facilitator of Procter Gallagher Institute based in Toronto. Doug Dane is an authority on getting results. He is proof that anyone can think and grow rich. Doug is certified thinking into results facilitator working alongside Bob Proctor. Bob calls Doug the stuck buster. He is an expert at getting people unstuck. He teaches corporates and individuals what's getting in the way to achieve big results. According to Doug, the secret to achieving big results is to change the way you think. If you change your mind, you can change your results. If you change your mind, you will change your life. We have another speaker in the panel, Mr. Deepak Bhadra. Mr. Deepak Bhadra is a certified consultant representing Procter Gallagher Institute in Dubai. Deepak is an engineer by profession and has worked as a director with one of the Al Sarawi group of companies for 21 years with proven track records, professional achievements, and exponential growth. He resigned from his 7-figure salary job to pursue his bigger dream and to help other people to build their dreams. By the way, he has achieved financial freedom by applying his learnings from mentors like Bob Proctor and Robert Kiyosaki. He teaches individuals and corporates Bob Proctor's proven methodology to spark exponential change in your performance and results. These teachings are based on more than 100 years of research, study, teaching, real-world experience of Bob Proctor, Earl Nightingale, Napoleon Hill, and Andrew Carnegie. Deepak has a passion for real estate industry based on his learnings from Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad Man. So I welcome Doug Dane and Deepak Bhadra, our panelists on behalf of the ICI Dubai Chapter Managing Committee, to address our respected members on the motivational topic, it's time to transform your adversities into opportunities. Now I am handing over the mic to Deepak Bhadra.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Harikishan. Thank you very much for providing this opportunity and sharing this information, which has changed my life. I would say, see, we are talking about transformation.
Deepak, just I will interrupt. Just if you can announce that Bob Proctor could not join because of.
Sorry, Mr. Anish, sorry, I will see, because of some unforeseen circumstances, there were some technical reasons due to which Bob was not able to address directly to you people. Maybe in future we will see, but as of now, I apologize on behalf of everyone. And but be sure that the value which you are going to get today from Doug mainly and from me will be totally new, and particularly in this situation, that this information, this knowledge can change a lot in your results.
Yes, sir. We are in safe hands.
Yeah, you don't worry. See, what I am today, I learned from Doug. Okay, I sitting here, I'm not directly, you can say, having access to Bob, unless if I visit Canada and US, which I'm doing regularly. I travel there every 5 or 6 months to there. It is my commitment. But Doug is available every day to my help. And any issues if I have in this new journey, Doug is my first contact point. And not only to me, there are more than 1,500 consultants whom Doug is helping on their journey. So you are in safe hand. You will be happy with the information what you are going to receive today.
Thank you.
And I'm thankful to Doug because many things, like, say, sometimes you need somebody to push you or pull you. And it comes decision moment. And today we are going to talk about adversity and opportunity. See, adversity and opportunity are two sides of same situation. So here, if you see, there is nothing written on this book and there is something written on this book. So same way. So, and Doug will take you on this journey to all of you with totally new level of awareness. I would say, because we never learn this kind of things in our school, college, corporate training, take anywhere. I worked in corporate for 30 years, but in that corporate, I didn't learn about me. I learned about outside. I learned about air conditioning. I learned about contracting. I learned about how to manage profits, but I never learned about me. I never learned about mind, how my mind works. So unless I don't know how my mind works, definitely it is difficult to control what is going on inside. So we are not going to talk about outside, but we are going to talk about inside. And Doug is, you can say, expert authority in this. And I will now request Doug to share and help how he can change, or how he can help you to change adversity into opportunities. So Doug, thank you very much for being here, accepting my invitation and being here. Thank you very much. And over to you.
Well, good morning, good afternoon. I guess it's evening, afternoon for you gentlemen. It's morning for me. Thanks, Deepak. I was thinking about this talk that we're doing today and turning adversity into opportunity. And I remember sitting talking to Deepak not long ago. We were in Los Angeles, and he had a real strong desire and a passion to really want to get into this information, what he was learning and how it was transforming his own business and work and life. And we had talked about it several times, that he wanted to make a big move and leave his full-time position and really get into this and dedicate his life to teach this information and help the people like it was helping him. And we're going to talk today about decision. And so I was giving Deepak a hard time because he couldn't make a decision. He had a strong desire, but he couldn't make a decision. And although, he knew how all this worked, there was still something getting in his way. And for many of you, there's something getting in your way. And what Deepak did, though, is he made a decision. In LA that day, we were having a coffee. He made a decision on the spot that he was going to make a move. And that's exactly what he did. And that decision opened up all kinds of doors for him. That decision basically laid out the path. Like when we open up this conversation, like each day, each moment of the day presents something new, and you never really know for sure where it's going to go. But if you make a decision is the door. That's really the key here. And I'm going to talk a lot about decision in my talk here today. But Deepak has really demonstrated a real strong understanding, not just through studying it, but really applying his life. And you should talk to him. You should work with him. He's demonstrated great success in his career, but now he really understands what made him successful. And that was something that happened to me too. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't really know why I was doing what I was doing and why I was doing as well as I was doing. I did pretty well in my career, but I always felt like there was more. I felt like I could do better. So I looked up the word adversity and opportunity. I like looking up the definition of words because our words are thoughts, and our words really dictate what it is we do and the way that we operate. So I like to look them up to see what they really actually mean. And so the definition of adversity is difficulties or misfortune. And the definition of opportunity is a set of circumstances that make it possible to do something. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about me, but I do want to give you a bit of context on my background. So I grew up here in the Toronto area, and I had a really difficult life starting out. Talk about difficulties or misfortune or adversity. I grew up in a very, very violent childhood, violent home, experienced all kinds of violence, all kinds of abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. I was addicted to drugs and alcohol when I was little, when I was young. I was kidnapped at 15 years old. I mean, I really struggled. I grew up in a very poor family. So I experienced all kinds of adversity. But then there was an opportunity, a set of circumstances that made it possible for me to do something different. Statistically, I should be dead or in jail or homeless by where I've come from and what I've experienced. But around 23 years old, somebody handed me this book, the same book that Deepak held up. And it's the same book that Bob Proctor, if you ever follow Bob, he's always got this book in his hands. His version is actually 60 years old. He's been studying the same version, same copy of the book for 60 years old. And I got this book, and it said there's a secret in the book. It's mentioned no less than 100 times. And if you figure out the secret, you'll be swept onto riches. And I thought, well, geez, if I could just get some money, because I just quit a factory job and I wanted to get into business. And so I got into business, and I wrote on a goal card that I was going to earn $1 million by the time I was 25 years old. Well, by the time I was 25, I actually went bankrupt. Now, I was reading the book, and I couldn't figure out what had went wrong. And then a guy came into my office, and he said, there's an event going on this weekend in Toronto, and it's called You Were Born Rich. I thought, geez, if I could just get this money thing sorted out, I would be doing much, much better. I had to borrow the money to get the ticket to go to the event. And it was a weekend event, and it was with Bob Proctor. And at that event, Bob explained this idea of this mental program, this mindset, what Bob calls a paradigm. So I had a paradigm built in from a very young age with an attitude, a negative attitude towards money, earning money, people with money. And I grew up in a family where it was very, very poor, but I went to school with all the rich kids, because my street of my home was just inside the school border where all the rich kids went, and all my friends went to the poor kids' school. And so I grew up in this environment where I was teased a lot. I was really given a hard time, and I didn't like people with money. I wanted what they had because I didn't want to live the life that I was living. And so I finally figured out what was in this book. Now, Bob often says, he said, you know, this author, Napoleon Hill, when he first got the book, his mentor said, Bob, do exactly what I tell you to do and just study this book. And Bob often says, he said, you know, if this guy spent his whole life, Napoleon Hill, if this guy spent his whole life researching and writing this book, I figure I'm going to spend my whole life studying it. And so when I heard Bob say that, I figured, all right, if this guy spent his whole life writing this, and Bob has spent his whole life studying it and reading it and teaching it, I figure it'd probably be a good idea for me to follow what Bob says. And that's what I've done. And so I worked very closely with Bob. I started with him about 6 years ago. He didn't know who I was. But like Deepak, I had a strong passion and desire to teach this because I started studying this information. I became a client, a student of the Proctor Gallagher Institute, and I started studying some information. And it's a program that Deepak takes his clients through, and I take my clients through. It's called Thinking into Results. It's a step-by-step system. Now, we're not here to talk about that program, but suffice it to say is that I started following certain principles. Now, I'm not saying any of this to impress you, but just to impress upon you that if you change the way that you think, anything can change in your life. Now, if you look at adversity and opportunity, the only difference between these two words is really how you view things and your perception or attitude towards it. So if you take a look at the current situation, there's many people like me, like Bob, like Deepak, there's many people looking at the situation as an opportunity. And there's a lot of people that are looking at the situation as an adversity. It's your choice how you think. So you have an intellectual factor. One of them, there's 6 of them. One of them is called your perception. Even as you're going through this call, you're going to be perceiving the information and perceiving me and what you hear based on a certain set of principles and criteria that has been programmed into your mind. And so you have a choice, you have a decision of how you can look at the current situation and how you look forward. So today what I want to do, I want to spend a bit of time with you just explaining some key things that you need to understand. Now, Deepak mentioned your mind. Your mind is like a machine, okay? Now, this guy here, Maxwell Maltz, he wrote a book called Psycho-Cybernetics, and he discovered back in 1960 that your mind is like a machine. Pardon me. Your mind is like a machine. You're not a machine, but you have a machine that you use, and you're the operator, just like the machines you use in your everyday work. As chartered accountants, every day you're working with computers. Well, your mind is like a computer. And I figured when I discovered that, I thought, geez, if I've got this mind that's a machine, I better figure out how it actually operates. If I'm the operator and I'm in control, and my mind and my thinking is dictating everything that I'm doing and all the results I'm getting, I better start thinking the right way. And so this author, Maxwell Maltz, he discovered that we've got this built-in automatic mechanism. It's goal seeking. It's like a built-in GPS. It's goal seeking, and it will figure out automatically how to get to whatever it is you're thinking about. Now, your mind doesn't care if what you're thinking about is negative or if it's positive. Your subconscious mind is wide open. It doesn't care what you're thinking about. Whatever you're thinking about, your mind is going to try to seek this out. And so what I want to talk today is, but really, if you want to really take this adversity and turn it into an opportunity, there's certain key things that you're going to have to do. No matter what the situation is, what we're going through right now, any situation that's happened in time, that's going to happen in the future, is always going to present a set of challenges or adversity or a set of opportunities. It's really your choice how you approach it. So I just want to share with you a few things that you must seriously consider. Now, by the end of this call, your whole state is going to change. Okay. By the end of this call, you are going to be feeling better. If you're having a bad day, you're going to be way more energetic than when you arrived on the call. Your mind is going to shift the way that you're feeling. And I'm going to plant a bunch of ideas in your mind. I'm going to explain why you're able to shift your energy and your attitude by the end of this call. Okay. So I want to share a few things with you. Okay. Number one, you have to have clearly defined goals. Why? Well, because as human beings, we are goal seeking. We have this mind, it's goal seeking. Human beings, we want to grow. We always want to do more, we want to be more, and we want to have more. So we must have goals. Now, I thought I knew everything about goals. You guys probably have been taught lots about goals, but I was taught about goals from the corporate perspective. And I was taught about having, these SMART goals. And I realized I didn't know anything about goals at all. When I talk to people, I ask them, what are their goals? And if I was asking you, what are your goals? You probably would have some answers. You probably would have some wants and some hopes and wishes and things that you'd like to be, do, or have. But the reality is very few people have goals. And especially in these times right now, when I talk to people about their goals, they're having a hard time even thinking about their goals because there's so much unknown going on that what they're doing is they're not even considering what it is that they want to do. But you must have goals. And the reason you want to have goals is because it gives you energy. It gives you purpose. Okay. One of the reasons a lot of people are struggling right now is because they don't have goals. There's a huge fear of the future and what this is all going to bring. They're not even willing to consider setting goals because they just don't know what's going to happen. Okay. And your mind is just kind of sitting around waiting for you to tell it where to go. That's like if I pull out of my driveway here and I get in my car and I just start driving around aimlessly. Now, you might know people like that. You might know people that are just kind of wandering around aimlessly through your life. It's because they don't have goals. And so your mind requires a target. In the absence of you deciding on goals and deciding what you're going to do and where you're going to go and the results that you're going to achieve and what you're going to accomplish in your life, in the absence of that, what you're going to do is you're going to pick up all kinds of influence and all kinds of information and all kinds of ideas from the outside. Okay. And that's what's happening right now is everybody is paying so much attention to what's going on out there. They're not really paying attention to what's going on in here. So number one, You've got to develop clearly defined goals. Now, what that does for you is it gets you fired up. It gets you excited. And if you decide what you're going to do, even if it's a short-term goal, it could be a goal for 30 days from now or 6 months from now, it doesn't matter. If you provide your mind with a goal, and that's what you spend your time thinking about, well, guess what? Then you're going to be excited because your mind is focusing on, that's where I'm going, that's where we're headed, and you're going to come with all kinds of ideas to get there, and that's what you're going to be occupied with, okay? A lot of people right now are occupied with the news. A lot of people are occupied with social media. A lot of people are occupied with what's going on out there. What you've got to do is you've got to occupy what's going on in here. And many of you have a lot of things going on in here that probably aren't all that positive. Many of you might be experiencing fears, doubts, and worries. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. One of the biggest challenges that people face is indecision. So I was talking about that with Deepak, okay? Now, indecision, procrastination, is a goal killer, okay? Now, why is it that people put off the very things that they want to do? If I sat down with you and I said, tell me what it is that you really want. Tell me what it is that you'd like to be doing. Tell me where you'd like to be 6 months, a year, 5 years down the road, okay? And like Deepak, he told me everything he wanted to do. He was very crystal clear on what he wanted, but he couldn't make a decision. And he kept putting off the decision. Now, why do we do that? Well, let me explain that. So you have to understand this relationship that's going on inside your mind, all right? You've got what we call your thinking mind. And if we have time, we'll give you a little example of how your mind works. We've got a very simple model that we teach, that Bob teaches. And when he discovered it back in the early 70s, he's been teaching it ever since. If you watch him this weekend, there's a global event going on this weekend. It's called The Science of Getting Rich. And it's based on the book, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. And in that seminar, he's going to teach you how your mind actually works. And he has a very simple model that explains all that. So we've got our conscious mind, our thinking mind. Now, that's where most of you guys operate from, okay? In your day-to-day work, okay, you're working with numbers, you're working with figures, you're working with data, you're working with information. So most of the time, just by habit and the way that you were trained, most of you are spending most of your time in your thinking mind, in your conscious mind, okay? So the other part of your mind is your emotional mind, or the subconscious part of your mind, okay? Now, your conscious mind, it has the ability to think. It has the ability to create ideas. It has the ability to accept or reject information. But your subconscious mind has no ability to reject anything. It's completely amoral. It's completely wide open. Whatever ideas are handed over to it, okay, it is going to act on. Now you have to understand, it's your subconscious mind that causes you to do things. Okay, your conscious mind causes you to think things. That's the knowing, we call the knowing part of your mind. The subconscious mind, that's the doing part. And so most of us, myself, Deepak, many of you, get stuck in what we call the knowing doing gap. You know that you could be doing better. You know that you've got ideas of ways you'd like to improve your life. You know that you could multiply your business in a much bigger way. You know, but yet you're not doing, and it's very frustrating. So what happens is you'll get an idea. You'll think, I'd really like to do this. I'd really like to take my business from here and like really take it through a quantum leap. I'd like to, and you get these ideas of what you'd like to do. Okay. And those ideas start at the conscious mind. And then those ideas, you start to think about it. So at the end of this call, we are going to suggest that you take some action. Whenever I suggest people take action, what many people do is they go, let me think about it. And I go, why the heck would you want to think about it? Well, I need to think about it. Well, you don't need to think about it. That's just the way that you were trained. That's just the way that you were educated, okay? Now, what happens is indecision causes fear. So you get an idea, and then what you do is your idea, you start playing with it, you start thinking about it. And the more that you think about it, And the more that you think about it, it creates doubt. Okay. And that turns into fear. Let me just read you something from the back of this book here. The last chapter of Think and Grow Rich. And if you've never read this book, I'm not going to spend too much time explaining it, but this book was published in 1937. The author spent 25 years interviewing over 25,000 people, 500 of the most successful people in the world at that time. And this literally is a playbook. There's 13 principles in it. And it is a data collection of those interviews explaining what makes people successful. The last chapter is called How to Outwit the 6 Ghosts of Fear. He says here, before you can put any portion of this philosophy into successful use, your mind must be prepared to receive it. Now, that's an important statement right there. In order to put anything that I talk about into use on this call, your mind has to be open or prepared to receive it. Some of you are sitting there with a very closed mind, and a closed mind cannot accept ideas, new ideas. He said, your mind must be prepared to receive the ideas. He says, the preparation is not difficult. It begins with study, analysis, and understanding of 3 enemies which you must clear out. These are indecision, doubt, and fear. He says your 6th sense, which he refers to your subconscious mind, he said your subconscious mind will never function while these 3 negatives or any of them remain in your mind. The members of this unholy trio are closely related. Where one is found, the other 2 are close at hand. He said indecision is the seedling of fear. Okay. And so that's where most of us get stuck. That's where I got stuck. That's where Deepak got stuck. He knew what he wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to do. I spent 25 years in the financial services industry in Canada, primarily in the mortgage industry. I owned my own businesses. I started companies from scratch. I worked for a lot of the big banks here in Canada. And I decided I wanted to make a change. I wanted to make a move, but I kept putting off the decision. Okay. So here's what you have to understand, right? Indecision, procrastination, is a result of overthinking. What we need to begin to do is really understand how our mind works, okay? Where our ideas come from, where the roadmap to get to where we want to go comes from, okay? Now, as I mentioned, you've got this built-in GPS, okay? Your mind is like a GPS, right? And it's programmed. Now, if I grab my phone and I open up my maps on my phone and I type in an address, and I could put in the address of your home right now. I could type in the address and it would give me the destination. Now, until I actually hit get directions, it's not going to tell me where to go. So I hit get directions, and if I was living in your country, it would give me directions on how to get to your home. Now, it's not going to tell me where to go or how to get there until I do what? It's not going to tell me where to go until I commit and I hit the little green button on my iPhone that says go. Then I start driving, I start moving, and then the GPS starts calling out my directions turn by turn by turn. And so as a guy who was very analytical, very slow to make decisions, procrastinating all kinds of things, had all kinds of worries and doubts about how am I going to make this happen. When I started to understand how my mind works, I was able to relax and let my mind do all the work. And that's what you need to understand, okay? Is that you let your mind work. When you guys are working away on your computer, when you're working away using, whatever program you're using for your business, QuickBooks or Simply Account or whatever version of software you're using for your business, you don't sit there and worry and doubt and question and wonder and ask people for their opinion or anything like that as to whether the computations are going to work out. You just let the computer work. You let the program work because you trust it, okay? You trust it. You may not have trusted yourself when you first started because you were new in accounting, but now you're all very confident in the way that you work and the way that you operate. So what you've got to do is you've got to understand how your mind works. And if you do that and really study how it works, you'll become confident and comfortable and calm and relaxed. And you'll just know that whatever you decide that you want to do, Your built-in GPS will figure out how you get there. Okay? Now, here's one of the problems you've got. So here I am, I'm 23 years old. I'm reading Think and Grow Rich. I want to make $1 million by the time I'm 25. And at 25, I go bankrupt and I can't figure out what's going on, right? One of the biggest problems that people face is they don't understand how their beliefs are controlling their behavior, okay? So right now, many of you have a lot of beliefs about what's going on right now. Many of you have a lot of beliefs about maybe things that you should be talking about or you shouldn't be talking about. Many of you have all kinds of beliefs. You have cultural beliefs, you have religious beliefs, you have beliefs about your industry, you have beliefs about your abilities. You have all kinds of beliefs that are going on the inside, okay? Now, wherever you were born and wherever you were raised, you were installed with a mental program, okay? Now, I want you to think of your mind as a cybernetic mechanism, like Maltz, the author of that book, said. Your mind is a cybernetic mechanism, like a GPS, or think of it as a thermostat, okay? So a thermostat is a cybernetic mechanism. And what it does is it measures deviations of a set goal. So my thermostat right now, my home is set at 72 degrees, okay? Now, it's cold outside. If I opened up the door or I left the door open, the cold air would come in. The thermostat would recognize the deviation of the set target of 72 degrees. And the program of that device, that cybernetic mechanism, would send a message to the furnace. The furnace would come on and fire it up, and it would start to blow warm air into the home. And then when the thermostat, when the home, the environment got to 72 degrees, the thermostat, the device, would recognize that it's achieved the set goal, and it would send a message to the furnace to turn off, okay? Well, that's how your mind works, all right? Just like the phone. If I'm driving towards your home, and all of a sudden I deviate away from the directions, the device is going to recognize the deviation away from the set goal. Now, that's good news and bad news, okay? The good news is that if you set a target, your mind can tell you which way to go, okay? The bad news, though, is that you've got a mental program that's been installed in you and started at a very young age, and you were taught all kinds of things. You were taught to believe all kinds of things. In fact, if you grew up here in Toronto with me, many of the things you believe that you believe now, you wouldn't believe. I was adopted as a young baby, 6 months old. I was dropped into a home, and I was dropped in this poor family. Now, I could have been dropped into a wealthy family. I could have been dropped into a family of actors or entertainers or athletes or whatever. I could have been dropped into any home, but I got dropped into the home that I was dropped into, and I was brought up with all of these beliefs. So what you've got to take a look at is you got to take a look at your beliefs relative to where you want to go. Now, here's where the conflict starts. And this happens for a lot of people. You're sitting around and all of a sudden you get an idea. You go, man, would it ever be great to do this? I'd like to do this, or I'd like to go here, or I'd like to build this or whatever. And you get these ideas, okay? Now, what happens is the idea comes from your subconscious, okay? From your, what the Greeks called your heart of hearts, okay? Your subconscious mind. And you get these ideas or these desires. Now, this other book that we're going to talk about, this one's called The Science of Getting Rich. Can't really see the cover. It's called The Little Green Book. It was the book that inspired the movie The Secret. And in the book here, he says, desire is the unexpressed possibility within, seeking expression without through your actions. So what does that mean? So you have these desires inside. There's things that you want to do. There's things that there's maybe somebody you'd like to be. There's maybe things that you'd like to do in the world. Maybe you want to do something really, really big. And you have these desires, and they're the unexpressed possibility. Meaning, if you have these desires inside, then that's a possibility. Actually, it's a very high probability that you can pull it off. In fact, Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, he said, if you have a desire to do something, you have the ability to pull it off. All right, so you've got this desire inside, And so I had a really strong desire to leave the mortgage industry and teach this information. I had a really strong desire, not just to be a consultant working globally amongst, thousands of other people around the world with Bob Proctor. I had a desire to work with Bob Proctor side by side. Okay, I had this very strong desire going inside. Okay, just like when I was young, I had a strong desire to earn a lot of money, but I had a conflict going on inside. All right, I had these beliefs about money that were contradictory to what I want. Okay, so here's what happens: you're sitting around and you get an idea, and you get really excited about the idea almost immediately, as soon as you get emotionally involved in an idea. So if you're just thinking about it, nothing happens. But as soon as you get excited about the idea, as soon as you get emotionally involved with the idea, if that idea is in conflict with your beliefs or your paradigm, the mental program, then it's going to boot out the idea right away. Or it's going to go, let me think about it. I don't know how I'm going to make that happen. And you start coming out with all kinds of excuses and alibis as to why you can't do it, all kinds of excuses and alibis as to why you shouldn't do it. Okay. And it's the mental program, it's your beliefs, it's the paradigm that's controlling how your mind is operating. So you got to clear out those conflicts. And so I just tell people, you got to pay attention to what's going on inside. You got to pay attention to what your desires are telling you. You got to pay attention to what your heart is telling you to do, right? And so you start to plug into this stuff. You start plugging in and really thinking about what you want, but then your beliefs hijack the very thing that you want to do. There's a great quote. I don't know if I can find it here. I was watching the movie Gandhi. I first started reading Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill talks a lot about Gandhi's story in Think and Grow Rich. And I thought to myself, I've got a really, really big goal, like a really big goal. I've got a very big picture of how I want to change the world. I thought to myself, why can't I be Gandhi? Why can't I do what he did? I mean, in studying his story and reading books about him, and I watched the movie that Richard Attenborough made about him. And I thought to myself, why couldn't I do what he did? So I started studying. Here's a man that changed the minds of 100 million people. Now, where did it go here? Let me see if I can find it. I had it up on my phone here. I just Googled quote about beliefs. Let's see if I can find it here again. There it is. So he said, your beliefs become your thoughts. Your thoughts become your words. Your words become your actions. Your actions become your actions become your habits. Your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. Right? It all starts with your beliefs. And so what you've got to do is you've got to reevaluate them. Now, your beliefs are so strong, you're not even prepared to reevaluate them. You just believe in them so much, and you've held them for so long. In fact, you've held them for generations. This weekend, Bob couldn't make this day because we're very busy preparing for a global event. So there was an event scheduled this weekend in Los Angeles, and of course, it got canceled. So we had to very quickly rejig and serve all the people that were coming to that seminar in LA, plus all the thousands and thousands of people around the world that come on and live stream. So this weekend, it's an event, it's called The Saint, whose wish is to get rich first, and I love this, and philosophize afterward. It is for those who have so far found neither the time, the means, nor the opportunity to go deeply into the study of metaphysics, but who want results and who are willing to take the conclusions of science as a basis for action without going into all the processes by which these conclusions were reached. In other words, this is the fast track. Now, he said, if you want, you can spend the rest of your life studying likes of Emerson and Schopenhauer and Leibniz and Hegel, etc. He said, you can spend your life, thousands of people all around the world who are getting amazing results. You've got to follow that quiet voice inside. If anything I've said on this call has resonated with you, if anything in this call has disturbed you, okay, then you got to follow that quiet voice inside, and you got to take a look at this much more closely. And if you do that, you will constantly be looking at every situation as an opportunity, not as an adversity. And I want to thank, grateful that you invited me on to share some information with you. I wish I could go longer, but I really invite you to spend some time with us this weekend and spend some time with Bob Proctor in this event. I think you're going to love it. And it will, again, just continue to show you more ways that you can turn adversity into opportunity. Deepak, thank you. There you go.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much, Doug, for all these insights and life-changing information. Now, this information has changed my life, and I started learning this since last 4 years, and that made me to take this kind of decision, like what I'm doing today. It was not easy decision, but when I took this decision, I was relaxed. Till the time I didn't took decision, it was I was feeling guilty of myself, that I want to do, but why I'm not able to do it. Now, many of you also must be in the same situation. You want to do your dream business. Maybe you want to do something different, but something is holding you back. And that something is belief system or paradigms, or Doug says mental programming. And see, remaining ignorant is not the way. We have to learn. Information affects your entire life. So I will share one slide with you. See, what we are talking about, like what Doug has spoken and what I am talking about, is all the learning from people like right from Andrew Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, Bob Proctor. And I also learned from Bob Proctor. Doug also learned from him. And I will straight away go with a slide. How you can avoid fear by gaining faith. And when you have this, it is a well-being. Well-being will turn into expression. Expression turns into acceleration. Acceleration will make your body at ease. You will feel cool, you will feel calm, even whatever is happening in economy. And that will make you to create something new life. So this is like, see, this is one slide conveys a lot of message. And when we are ignorant about this, till this point, yes, it was, you were ignorant. But now when you know this, definitely it is our responsibility to gain the knowledge. Be on right side instead of being on left side. And it's a choice. I have made this choice because I learned from the master. And that's all. So I have shared little bit, like as Doug says, we can share this information whole day because it is so much value in this information. Can continue. Okay. Yeah. So this is like, say, about mind. Now, mind is something we need to understand. And as Doug says, we are machine, and mind is operating that machine. So it is our responsibility to understand how that machine works. Now, you people are all in finance. You are handling other people's money. What are your financial dreams? Definitely you have financial dream. Many of you are business people. Many of you are working in senior positions. Many of you are in as a team member. But definitely everyone, we have goals, we have dreams, we have desires. Starting point is asking ourselves that what I really want. And when we ask that repeatedly, see, and then Bob, what he did, he got 2 glasses. One glass was with water and one was with black coffee. And then he started pouring water in coffee glass with black coffee. And then nothing was changing. He did with 10 spoons and nothing changed. Coffee color remains as it is. But the moment he took half spoon of coffee and put it in water, entire water color was changed.
I think the key is you can be thinking about something. I would probably challenge you to believe that I could do that. And so what slows people down is, like Deepak, that analogy uses a great example. What slows people down is indecision, fear and doubt, or there could be deeply rooted beliefs about your possibilities or your capabilities you're not even aware of. Now, a lot of people make the mistake thinking, I got to spend all these years uncovering all of these beliefs. You don't need to do that. When you were little, okay, you believed you could do anything. You didn't doubt yourself. You were fearless on the way as we've gone through our life that are contradictory of what we're trying to do. So you don't have to uncover the beliefs. All you really got to do is take a look at, ask yourself a question. Knew what you wanted and you went for it. But over time, we've developed all these, we've picked up these beliefs that I have that are contradictory to what I want. And if you ask yourself that question, you'll probably get an answer. And then the second question is, what beliefs do I need to hold or do I need to have in order to get what I want? And you'll come up with answers to those. And then you just start installing those beliefs through repetition. And that's what you need to do. What you do is you don't worry about the old paradigm or the old mental program. Like if it's cold in my house, I'm not worried about what it's set at. I just simply go to the thermostat and I set it for a different temperature. And you can do the same thing, but you need to learn how to do that. So in the movie The Secret, it talked about how you attract things to you. And you can attract all kinds of things, little things, big things.
Rest of everyone.
So my point is that they're so successful and you think there's something different about them. You think there's something special about them. You think that they're lucky or they're gifted or they grew up in a wealthy family, whatever it is you think, okay? The only difference between them and you is that the program is operating inside of them. If you're still here, this is making sense to you. This is resonating with some of you, right? What we're explaining is not complicated stuff. Like nothing on this call that I've said, every one of you understand it. You may not be able to explain it, but you understand it because it's very, very simple. It's not complicated, okay? But we make it complicated because that's the way that we were educated. So I wouldn't think about this. What I would do is I would continue to dive into it. I would continue to study it. I would continue to ask questions of people that understand it and are getting the results that you want to get. Now, to answer your question, action. If you're driving in your car and you have the GPS turned on and it's calling out the direction for where you're supposed to go and where you're supposed to turn.
Activities of life are much different. And you have an answer in theory that there is a failure. So failure is giving you a feedback. Anything which is coming to my mind out of the positivity which anyone has is that anyone takes steps forward, approaches people, try to deal with every situation with all positive mindset. But theory and practical are different. What would you like to say about that?
I'm still thinking that they were ugly, still thinking that they weren't good enough, still thinking that they couldn't accomplish things. So he went on to research. And he went back to the early 40s and 50s, building man-made brains, computers. And he discovered through his role and how I feel dictates the actions that I take. And law of cause and effect, which is an absolute law, that's not a theory, positive action with a positive viewpoint and do good and try to create good rather than go out and worry about what is bad and what is wrong and why I can't do it. That's my choice, okay? Nothing is good or bad. It's your thinking that makes it so. And that's a decision that you have to make yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And just to add this little bit in what Doug says, like see now, our thoughts are like seeds. Now we never question that when we plant seeds in the soil, subject to soil is fertile, and the farmer takes good care of that by watering tires. But when we share with other people, and then they will say, oh, be practical, be realistic. And we are allowing other people to kill our dream, or maybe we are allowing environment or circumstances to kill our dream. So it is like same way you plant the seed in the soil or you plant
look Deepak, you got an opportunity. So you got an opportunity to move out from a very different situation to another situation, right? And the other situation which you had in hand got you what you wanted. The important thing is, what I'm trying to tell you here is that not at all points in time, people will get what they want. People
में तो
Restricted
तीर नहीं
those
मार
things.
सकते आप.
Yeah, yeah. It
Right.
is like say attracting.
Perfect.
It is like say shifting from ignorance to knowledge or ignorance to
Sorry for getting you
awareness.
around with some tough questions.
No,
It's
it is
a-
good. Like it is good. Yeah,
Maybe
if you have
maybe
any,
I'm old enough to put some tough questions, isn't it?
It's a good debate. It's a good debate. Let's move to the next one now.
yeah.
Actually, this is a very valid question you asked for. I think there is a very good leading question which is coming in. It is being posted in YouTube where we are going live right now. So there is a question: how to overcome the fear of being a self-starter? I think that's what comes up with a lot of people when they want to do something different.
Yeah.
How to overcome that fear?
Well, I would go back to when you were little. Okay. Listen, of old age and fear of death. Okay. So right now, if you look at those top three, fear of criticism, that's probably the most dominant one. We're so worried about what people are going to think of us that we don't do what we really, really want to do. We're so worried about what if we fail, what are people going to think of us? We're obviously worried about money. You know, I mean, to live in today's society, you need money. So we're worried about losing money or not earning enough money. And so that drives us as well. And then, of course, in today's environment, which is, you know, being dominated heavily by the fear we're brought up with that. I mean, we were just raised that way. We saw our parents criticize people. They were criticized. They criticized us. We started criticizing ourselves. And so you have to understand where these inherent fears have come from. Okay. And so like Deepak said, it all comes down to understanding all of this. And if you can understand what's causing your fear, then you are, and you do gain confidence through action. So I find the best way to overcome fear is number one is study and understanding. So what's causing the fear? And then just really taking action and seeing what happens. A great question to ask yourself, what's the worst that's going to happen? What's the worst that could possibly happen to me if I did this? And you start taking action, and you'll find, you know, fear, they estimate that 80% of the fears you have never even happen. All the things that you, ladies and gentlemen, are worried about right now of what might happen is probably not going to happen. Okay. So I just say, operate from that and operate.
You know, things are going to be like this only. There are lots of uncertainties will come in your life. And if you keep worrying, I think there is no end to it. Let us be positive about it.
So, sir, what is your mantra?
My mantra is be happy.
Be happy in all situations.
Be self-sufficient and see whatever things come, how will you face it? Now, see what you mentioned about asking of, you know, cut in the salary or reduction of hours and all. This is, I think it is going to affect everybody, and particularly those people who are living on a day-to-day or hand-to-mouth, they will have difficulty. And then the question is whether you can continue to live in this country or you'll have to leave this country. Cost of living you have to consider.
So
Thank you.
Mr. Deepak,
Great.
Mr. Deepak, what's your take for the financial turbulence which UAE is facing right now? So to DHA, what kind of advice or what kind of a thought process we can give it to them?
I can't control outside. That's what Doug says. We cannot control what is happening around us. We can only control what is going inside us. And when we do
Great. So I think only one F can prevail, either fear or faith. So
faith, it is a choice. We can be
okay, over to you, Mr. Secretary Anurag.
Thank you very much, Mr. Doug and Mr. Deepak, for the nice session. You know, one thing I always believe, and very strong belief that I always have, you know, since 2 years now I've started. One thing that I really believe in yourself, because, you know, you don't have control over the future. Whatever you're doing, you are trying to do your whatever possible, whether you're doing the job or you're trying to think of a startup and anything altogether. So believe in yourself and don't worry. You know, you have grown up with no knowledge. You build the knowledge over the years. Be a chartered accountant.
Thank you very much.
great.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
PQ is now got you give me the employer reference number, please?
Rajiv, you can end the meeting.
Thank you.
And